In this short conversation with Dusty, we're going to consider who are others to me and how this can impact on our conversations. So, without further ado, Dusty, what is that all about? This concept of who are others to me?
It's how we perceive others,
Right.
And what do we know about them? What do we assume about them? And to put it into context, it might be that how I enter into a conversation will be influenced by the environment that they're in. For example, I might see myself going to Leicester Tigers,
Yep.
and I might see an opportunity to work with somebody inside Leicester Tigers and go, this is really important because it's Leicester Tigers. Conversely, I might go to Chipping Norton Rugby Club and work with a coach in Chipping Norton Rugby Club and not feel as important to me
Yep.
if I go on perceptions.
So the bit around who are others and their environment and how we see that, it can really impact on our thoughts, our conversations, and how we help support people.
Yeah, it can do. It can influence because we might assume
Yeah.
knowledge in some environments and assume a lack of knowledge in others.
Yeah.
And that can really influence on how we approach the support for others.
Do you think we become, become less authentic is probably the wrong word, but do you think that concept of another person will change our behaviour significantly?
Indeed. I'm sure that if His Majesty the King walked in now,
Yeah.
we would all change our behaviour towards that person because it would be deferential because of how society has shaped us in that way.
Right.
And so it does impact on how we are,
Yeah.
but we are consciously doing that.
Right.
So the conscious and unconscious, there is an unconscious response to a situation and a conscious response too.
Right. So in that conscious piece, we still have the opportunity to retain some of the essence of who we are and what we're about. We don't have to totally change.
No, absolutely not. We should maintain who we are and be authentic to the situation that we are,
Yeah.
but recognising that in that situation we are playing the role that is expected of us.
Right. So just going back to your analogy with the king and things like that. So if my perception of someone is far greater than what I have of myself, that could have a significant difference in the language I use, how I approach the situation, and my interactions with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we use the example of the king, but we translate that into rugby, I might walk into a Premier Rugby club,
Yeah.
be deferential to the coaches or the referees or the people that are in that environment because it is a Premier Rugby club.
Right.
Conversely, I might walk into a community rugby club, and because I work for the national governing body, they might be deferential to me.
Right. So that awareness, I guess this ties into both pieces that we've discussed earlier, which was around this concept of who am I to others and who are others to me, probably now start to dovetail and overlap or interact with each other.
Yeah, and they do, and they consciously and unconsciously interact, and your interactions with the individuals that you're working with,
Yep.
it will be playing out in every conversation that you have, in every aspect of the conversation. Our role
Yeah.
is to consider how I am arriving and how I am perceived
Yep.
in this conversation, because their perception is their reality.
Yep.
And so my role is to work in service of their perception and to
Right.
help them understand where they are and how we can help them grow.
And in that concept of a role, can we retain that, and I've touched on it already, that authenticity of this is the role, I understand the responsibilities of the role, but this is me fulfilling that role as an individual?
Yeah, and it's important to help the person that you're working with understand when you are in the role
Yeah.
and when you are your authentic self and
Right.
how interchangeable they are.
Okay.
So you might actually name that in the course of a conversation. So as an example, I'm here to assess your performance.
Right.
That is me sharing with you that I'm here in this role as an assessor.
Right.
I might also be saying in the same sentence, however, my job as well is to support you and develop you as an individual. So what do you need for today?
Right, got you. So in the couple of films that we've done, we've looked at this concept of who am I to others, who are others to me. And I just want to share a quote that I heard that I think captures this.
Okay.
From a gentleman called Antonio Gutierrez. And his quote was that whenever two people interact, there are actually six people at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair quote?
Absolutely, because there is my version of me and there's
Yep.
your version of me,
Yeah.
and everything around that sits. And
Right.
so your perception of me will be very different to my own perception of myself. And so being conscious in the conversation that we're having is to recognise, how am I coming across in this moment? How are they coming across in the moment? And what do we need to do to work together to help you be the best version of yourself?
Dusty, that's a great wrap up. I'm not going to ask you for a tip because I think that wrap up in itself is the tip. So really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.